All right, guys, stay tuned, and we're going to talk about overpriced listings.
You better get fired up.
Hey, great to see you. Happy Monday. We're here every single Monday at 11 o'clock, where we talk about the hottest things in the real estate market, specifically here on the Treasure Coast. So today I want to talk about, are listings overpriced? It's a question I get all the time. It's not even just a question that I get. I also get buyers who will tell me, or people that I just see when I'm out to lunch or I'm at the grocery store, and they say, Joe, I can't believe how overpriced the market is right now. I think, and this is my opinion, so it may be wrong, 90% of people saying that are basing it on the fact that they wish the prices were lower. They don't like inflation, not just in housing, but in eggs and gas and cars and everything we buy, right? And so the frustration and the emotions attached to that frustration push them to say that the housing market is overpriced. I think also, and I'll use Port St Lucie as an example. You know, I got here almost 7 years ago, and I remember one of the reasons that I was attracted to this area was the average price point was around $240, $250. So for me, I thought, okay, I can get a home for $240, $250. That's affordable for me. I'm very happy with that. I like that area. Well, now you're looking at, I don't know average price points, but I know median price points are right at $430. That's almost $200,000 higher. Not quite 100% more, but close in just 6-7 years. So if you're a local and you've been here for a while, you're thinking, holy smokes, these homes are overpriced. That doesn't mean they're truly overpriced, right? What means they're overpriced is if there's a lot of people on the market that just aren't selling. If there's a lot of homes on the market that aren't selling, then yes, they're overpriced, because I don't care if it's 2008, right? Which is probably the worst housing market I'll ever witness. Even then, if you priced your house at a certain price, it was going to sell, guaranteed. And that price for a lot of people has changed now. We saw, you know, everybody's glued to the Zillow's estimate. Not that they necessarily trust it. A lot of people, I think, have hopefully been trained by realtors and appraisers and other professionals in the industry that Zillow's estimate is not accurate in most cases. However, it is a gauge to tell you what the market as a whole is doing, right? If it says my home is worth 500 and now it's worth 450, that doesn't mean it was worth 500 or now that it's worth 450, but I could probably guess that it insinuates the market has softened, right? Maybe my home was worth 5.25, now it's worth 5, so it's still worth what it said it was. Maybe my home was only worth 450 and now it's worth 440. But the point is, if you're seeing a major reduction in that number, then the market's probably softened. If you've seen a major increase in that number, well, then the market's probably increased, right? So that difference in that Zillow's estimate can be, I don't know if I want to say helpful. I don't know if I'm willing to give them quite that much credit yet, but I will say it can be insightful, right? It's another layer of information that you've got to make a decision. So do I think homes are overpriced right now? I think that in any market, homes are going to be overpriced. Homes are going to be appropriately priced. And every once in a while, it doesn't happen often, but it does happen. Homes are going to be underpriced. Okay. If I had to put a guess to it, I would guess that probably 30 to 40% of homes on the market right now in Port St Lucie are appropriately priced. Meaning, if I went and looked at sold comps over the last 3 to 6 months, and I did some analysis to find out what that property should be worth based on what other buyers are paying for similar properties, 30 to 40% would be within, let's say, $5,000 of that number. Maybe a little bit over, maybe a little bit under, but within $5,000, right? And I say within $5,000 because even realtors, professionals, the guys who sell the most homes, you take the top 10 selling realtors in Port St Lucie and you give them a house, they're going to tell you probably not 10 different numbers, but probably 5, 6, 7 different numbers for that one house, right? So it's not a science. It's a science and an art. And there's a lot of things that come to play. Also, you've got the particular buyer that's going to buy it. If that buyer is hot on that property, I love my house. When I came in, I paid $25,000 more for it. Did I care? No, I was the perfect buyer for her because it checked so many of my boxes. Had I not bought it, could have sold for $10,000, $15,000 less. I was the perfect buyer for that lady, right? if you don't have that perfect buyer for your home, and that really happens a lot when you've got something particular that limits your buyer pool, right? So if you've got 10 acres, of course, everybody wants 10 acres, but they don't want the price that you're probably going to attach to that 10 acres. So it can be a harder property to sell. Your buyer pool is smaller. If you've got, especially here in Port St Lucie, if you've got a really traditional layout, meaning not open, right? It's very, when I say choppy, I was going to say choppy, but that makes it sound bad. I love traditional layouts with certain styles of homes. My wife would never buy it, right? So I'm out of luck, obviously. But my point is, if you have a very specific type of home, or maybe you've got a home that's got an extra detached building, like a big shed, a big garage, a storage facility that ran you $150,000 to build, right? That can be tough. Not because people don't want that building, but because you, the seller, probably think, hey, I put 125 into that. I want to add 125 to what my home would otherwise sell for. Well, not a lot of people are going to do that. They might give you 40 extra, 50 extra. They're not going to give you 100 and a quarter extra. So that'll make it more challenging to sell too, right? So 30 to 40% of homes right now, I'm guessing, are within $5,000 of what I would say their market price is. I would say that probably 2 or 3%, it's not a lot, are going to be undervalued, right? Meaning they are more than $5,000 lower than where we would have them at market value. And then the other, man, I got to do the math, 30 to 40%. So that will be 60 to 70% minus a couple. So 58 to 68% are going to be overpriced. Why? Because there's three, well, that's not true. There's an added layer too. So there's three different ways you can price a home. There's more, but there's three basic ways you can price a home. And I'm going to add a fourth thing before I forget about it. You've also got realtors who sometimes inappropriately price homes, right? It's worth $500,000, but it's a newer agent, or it's an agent that doesn't understand that market, or it's an agent who didn't look at all the research correctly for whatever reason. It could have been a lack of experience. It could have been a mistake. And so they think that $500,000 home is worth $460,000. It happens, right? So now they put it on at $460,000. That could be a reason. But the other three pricing strategies, number one, hey, my home's worth $500,000. Cool, let's list it at $525,000. A lot of people think that. Roughly 60 to 70%, right? 30 to 40% think, if my home's worth $500,000, let's list it at $500,000. And then you've got a tiny percent that, again, maybe they got a bad recommendation from a realtor or an appraiser or whatever, or that might be part of their strategy. Hey, it's worth $500,000. Cool. Let's list it at $480,000. Let's get this sucker rolling. I want to sell it quick. Maybe we'll get multiple offers. Maybe I'll get $500,000 anyway. All right. So what do those three strategies traditionally produce, right? The first strategy, where you overprice it in this market where it's softer, doesn't produce a lot. It produces time on market. It produces a low amount of showings, no offers, and a frustrated seller. And then eventually, when they do drop down to, let's say, $500,000, which is what it was worth, now they're frustrated that they're not getting the $500,000 that the realtor told them. They're getting offers for $485,000, $490,000. But they're getting that because buyers are saying you're market worn. You've been on for 60 days, 90 days, 120 days. You must be desperate. You might say, well, I'm not desperate. It doesn't matter. The perception is that you're desperate. And perception is what matters when it comes to them writing up an offer, right? So that is not a strategy that I like. And a lot of people in a softer market are going to feel the pain of going with that strategy. Now, in 2021, that strategy worked all day long. If I had a $500,000 home, I could list it at $520,000 and it would sell. Number one, yes, it was a hot market. We had very few sellers compared to a ton of buyers. But also, number two, the market was going up. So even if I overpriced it, give it 2 to 4 weeks, it'll be right there, right? It wasn't a big deal. That's not what we're seeing right now. So if your home is worth $500,000, you should be at $500,000. So that strategy, honestly, statistically, when it comes to getting the highest net, pricing it at market has statistically shown to be the best pricing strategy. Meaning, if your home's worth $500,000, you list it at $500,000, and it's going to sell right around $500,000. It might even sell a little bit more because you got more interest. The third option is the best if you need to get out, it's going to give you the best odds of getting it sold, right? You're underpricing it. And in addition to that, you might not risk price. You might though, but you might not risk price because you're going to get an offer 480 and then you're going to get another offer for 480 because you're such a beautifully priced home. And then you're going to go tell both buyers, hey, I've got another offer and both are 480. I need you guys to do better. Well, I'll do 485. Well, I'll do 490. Well, I'll do 495. Well, I'll do 5. Well, I'll do 505. I'm not going to do 505. So now you can get 505 for a home that's worth 500 because you came down low enough to attract a ton of buyers. You had a big buyer pool, right? And if you've got a great agent communicating, making people negotiate against each other, now you can build that up. You can build that up. So there are different strategies. But what I'm seeing right now in this softer market, right? Softer than 2021. Of course, every market I've ever worked in is softer than 2021. Is that 60-70% of people right now are over that market value and they know it. I'll get a lot of people that say, hey, let's come in 20 grand higher as sellers. That way we got wiggle room. I hear that all the time. If you're at 500 grand, you ain't got no wiggle room, but guess what? You don't need to wiggle because people are coming in and they see, wow, this is the best price home for what I got. They might come in at 490, 480. But as a good, solid, seasoned realtor, I'm going to come back and say, hey, I can appreciate your offer. I can appreciate you trying to come in low, but here's all the comps that support $500,000. And we've got other people that are very interested in this property. I've been told, assuming this is true, we've got another offer coming. So at this time, thank you. Maybe in 30 to 60 days, we'll consider this. But right now, you guys are a little bit lower than what we're looking for. And that's a very reasonable response for a perfectly priced home in comparison with market solds that's just been on for 2, 3, 4 days. So those people are going to, the people who are pricing their home right are about 30 to 40% of the market. So if you're out there and you're going to see it because you're going to say, hey, I want, 3-bed, 2-bath, I need a pool, blah, 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 this area, whatever it is you say you want. And you're going to have 13 homes. And you're going to look at those 13. You're going to say, this one's got wallpaper. This one's got ugly orange carpet. This one's blah, 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 blah. So there's 7 left. Let's go look at the 7. Well, statistically, 2 or 3 of those, is that right? Probably. 2 or 3 of those are going to be appropriately priced. And the other 4 to 5 are going to be overpriced. But they're all going to be roughly the same price. Meaning the overpriced ones actually offer less. Maybe they got less square footage. They got a worse layout. They've got less modern features, less features, period. Maybe they got an older roof, whatever it is. And those 2 to 3 that are appropriately priced, well, because they're actually worth more, they've got more square footage, better amenities, more amenities, whatever it is. So that's what you're automatically going to be attracted to the overwhelming majority of the time. And then it weeds those overpriced homes out automatically. You're going to say, man, these are nice homes, but they're nothing like these. Why are these so overpriced? And I'm going to come back and say, because people have 3 different pricing strategies. And you're going to see that 60, 70% price them high. And that's why you're not attracted to those. The ones that you are attracted to probably are in that 30, 40% that correctly price it. So now reverse engineer that as a seller. Get rid of that crazy mentality that I think people think it's the first time that it's ever been said. I need wiggle room. Let's leave us some room for negotiating. Let's try high, see what happens. We can always drop it. It's the same things I always hear. And I'll explain it. Hey, statistically, you're going to do worse. As long as you understand that, let's do whatever you want. And 60, 70% of people will do that. 30, 40% will price it in accordance with market. So guys, there you go. I do not think the market is overpriced. I do think prices are higher compared to median incomes than they've probably ever been, or at least it's close. I think it's more, I don't want to say challenging. I want to say, I'll say financially challenging. I think it's more financially challenging to purchase a home now or rent a home now than it's ever been. The numbers are just expensive. It just is what it is. But I'm thinking about why I'm about to share what I'm about to share. We'll talk about the why second. it's important to understand that just because housing used to take up 30% of your income and now it takes up 45% of your income, or make up your numbers so they fit, right? And that's more challenging, it's more painful for you. That logically does not mean homes are overpriced. It simply means they make up a bigger portion of your income. It sucks more, in layman's terms. Why do I share that? Because I see a lot of renters. If you already own a home, I'm such a huge advocate for home ownership, because I renting 90% of the time is financially not in your best interests. That's the nicest way I could have put it. And I want to see people succeed. I want to see people grow their wealth. I want to see people strive, flourish. So for me, when I see somebody renting, I'm, oh, we got to get you out of that situation, man. We really do. We really do. So I want to push you out of that mindset of, oh my gosh, it used to make up 30% of my income, now makes up 45. They're overpriced. And really just look at the individual home. Because whether it's 2008 or 2021 or today, right? Softest market ever, hottest market ever, and kind of an average market. In every single one of those markets, you're going to have overpriced, appropriately priced, and a couple that are underpriced. But again, people are like, ooh, show me the underpriced. Well, you're going to have multiple offers and it's probably going to go up. So don't think you're necessarily going to get a deal, right? They're attracting a lot of people because of that price. So just be aware of that. Things tend to kind of work themselves out. But I really want to see you as a renter get out of that rental situation, start to build yourself some massive wealth, and do it through home ownership. And it's not going to happen in a year. And yeah, there are pains attached to owning, right? It's not perfect. But all those things you say you're not paying as a renter, I don't have to pay for the new roof, I don't have to pay for the new AC, I don't have to pay for this or that, or the HOA fees or the taxes. What do you think that homeowner's doing? They're taking all their costs, they're adding on a little bit of profit, they're dividing it by 12, and they're calling it rent. So yeah, you only make one payment, but that payment covers all their stuff plus profit. So it is challenging financially to purchase. It's challenging to come up with the upfront cash, which I've done videos that show you can actually get in for nothing or close to nothing. And it's challenging to come up with that down payment. I'm sorry, with that monthly payment. But again, you're coming up with a monthly payment with your rent, right? But one situation allows you to build equity. It allows you to pay down your mortgage instead of paying down your landlord's mortgage. So when you sell, you actually get a big check, versus renting, you just get your $2,000 deposit back or whatever it is. And then you've got appreciation over the years, right? I'm going to look it up right now. I don't know what it is. I'm going to guess it's about 4.5. Average home appreciation. I got to spell it. Appreciation in U.S. in last, let's say, 50 years. This is AI, so take this with a grain of salt. It says 3.5 to 3.8% before adjusting for inflation. So if you had an inflation of roughly 3.3%, you're looking at 6.8 to 7.1%. That's higher than I thought it would be, honestly. So every year, if it's going up 6-7% on average, some years it's going to come down, some years it's going to go up 20-30%, but on average, 6-7% a year. That means if you say no today and you wait 3 years, it's going to be roughly 20% higher usually. So if you're looking at a $3,000 payment, you're saying that's a lot. If you wait 3 years and you just decide to rent, it's going to be $3,600 on average in 3 years, right? And your rent's going to go up too. Rents go up every single year. Let's look that up. Average increase in rent in U.S. in last 50 years. We'll see how good AI is here. Over the last 50 years, rent has seen a significant increase, with the inflation-adjusted median rent rising approximately 64% since 1960. Well, that doesn't help me. What's the per? It's not giving me the per. Oh, here we go. Well, this is 20 years. Over the last 20 years, the average rent per square foot increased an average annual rate of 3.8%. So your rents are going up too, I guess is my point. So you're not getting out of it. Either way, it's going up. But if you lock into a mortgage, your principal and interest with 99% of mortgages, they don't change. That's why you see grandpa who's lived in his home for 28 years and his mortgage payment is, $672. And you're like, how? Your payment of whatever it is today, say $3,000, is going to sound like $672 27 years from now. It's going to sound like a screaming deal because it hasn't moved, but rents have gone up. Yeah, your taxes and insurance are going to go up, but your principal and interest won't. That rent includes principal, interest, tax, insurance, HOA fees, broken windows, all the stuff you're going to pay for anyway. It's calculated in there. Man, I got to get off my soapbox. I'm passionate about getting you guys out of rentals and into home ownership. So there you go. If you've got any other questions, or if I didn't fully clearly communicate this, certainly let me know. If you've got ideas for future videos on what's hot, again, we're here every single Monday at 11 o'clock. If you found this valuable, I would love for you to share this or go to YouTube, thejoerosenshow.com, and subscribe. It helps us get our message out and helps more buyers and sellers make educated decisions. Guys, thanks for joining me. Have a great rest of your week. Take care.